Hey, happy Halloween, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in. Radio dials, you got a couple of those 105.1 FM, 790 AM, also available online, sportstalk1051.com. We got your app, you got your Google and Alexa home devices, video stream, also up and rolling on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Oh, what do we got? A little snowy start. If you're in the Eau Claire area, well, maybe depending on where you're listening to us from, maybe you don't have snow. Maybe you have a little bit more. I don't know, but be a little careful out there on the roads if you are traveling out there. What do we got on the game plan for us here this morning? Bucks picking up a win against the Miami Heats after falling on Sunday. And kind of an ugly game, especially if you're Damian Lillard. But the Bucks picking up a 122 to 114 victory over the Heat last night. Nice bounce back game for Damian Lillard. I ended up with 25 points. Giannis leading the way with 33. Bucks kind of controlled the game, especially in the second and third quarter there. Miami tried to make a comeback there in the fourth. Got a little close, maybe a little too close for comfort there. Putting up 41 points in the fourth, but ultimately Bucks holding it down and getting that victory. Next up for the Bucks, if you're kind of looking ahead to the schedule, Bucks 2-1 in the early goings here, but they've got the Raptors tomorrow night. Chris Middleton did return to the starting lineup for the Bucks, only playing 17 minutes, 5 points, but he did have 5 assists to lead the ball club campaign. Bobby Portis providing some nice sparks off the bench for the Bucks last night too. So we got some hoops chat, and if you're just waking up and getting going, and if you are a big hoops fan, James Harden has finally been traded to the Clippers, which was long rumored and maybe the only suitor for James Harden. But him and PJ Tucker, former Buck PJ Tucker, heading over to the Clippers in exchange for some players and some draft picks there. So does affect the Bucks a little bit because, well, you're moving James Harden from the Eastern Conference to the Western Conference. Now you kind of look at, the Eastern Conference here. Bucks, Celtics, even before the trade, I thought it was Bucks, Celtics to, top tiers, the two top teams in the East, and then probably a tier two that included teams like Cleveland and maybe Philly with Joel Embiid in there too. Maybe they're actually going to get a little bit better now because they don't have to deal with the drama of James Harden. Miami, you could throw in there too. So, but Celtics, the lone Eastern Conference team that starting off their season undefeated. They're 3-0. Denver and Dallas, the two lone teams in the West who are still undefeated. Denver 4-0, Dallas 3-0. Baseball-wise, we've got the World Series last night. The Texas Rangers picking up the win to take a 2-1 lead in the series. It was a 3-1 victory for the Rangers last night. We got a crucial game 4 tonight, Halloween night. Can the Rangers take a commanding 3-1 lead, or can the Arizona Diamondbacks even this thing up? Craig Counsell update for you. He did interview with the Cleveland Guardians for their managerial position, according to reports out there. So he's interviewed for that. It sounds like he hasn't interviewed with the Mets yet, but according to John Heyman from the New York Post, that Craig Counsell's interest in the Mets is serious. Multiple people, according to the report, mentioned that Counsell and his wife very, very much like New York, which gives the Mets a decent chance in the case of the most watched managerial free agency in years. And as we've noted before, that has been out there before, one other issue that may help the Mets is that Counsell is said to be interested in raising the bar for managerial salaries, which have even trended lower or stayed the same in recent years from a high of Joe Torre's $8 million at his height in the Yankees dynasty. Council is also said to have a, quote, great working relationship with David Stearns. No big surprise there. So, but kind of your Craig Counsell update right now. And as I said, and Craig Counsell is due to be a free agent tomorrow. That's when his contract expires. And according to the New York Post as well, the Brewers did offer Craig Counsell a contract at the end of the season. Now, no idea what that number was or anything like that. But also, according to the report, the Brewers gave interested teams the approval to interview Counsell, which could enable Milwaukee to get started finding a replacement if necessary. Furthermore, folks close to the situation maintain Counsell is sincerely interested in the Mets and not merely using them in a strategy to drive up his Brewers offers. So, there you have it. That's an update on the Counsell situation with the Brewers here. How you feeling about that, Brewers fan? And what I was going to say too, I feel like I mentioned it yesterday, but I feel like if Counsell takes the Cleveland Guardians job, if he goes to Cleveland and he takes that job, I feel like that would be more of a PR disaster for the Brewers ownership, Mark Anasio and such. I feel like that would really be worse because, at least with the Mets, you're like, okay, yeah, they've got empty pockets and they're going to build, spend on rosters and that sort of thing. Whereas Cleveland's kind of a lateral move. So if he were to go to Cleveland, I think that really kind of it would be almost worse. It would be worse in terms of a PR type of thing for the Brewers owner, Mark Anasio. So if Brewers fans, keep your fingers crossed. Although I know there's some Brewers fans, they got their reasons, but there are some Brewers fans out there that maybe would like to see a change in ownership in leadership for the Brewers in terms of a manager. They'd like to see a different manager, but majority of Brewers fans would like to see Counsell back. I'm one of those as well, but still waiting. We're going to talk a little green and gold as well. Matt LaFleur chatted with the local media yesterday. Fleur saying, quote, they're going to be shaking some things up this week. They're going to be shaking some things up in terms of their process, their weekly rhythm, whatever the heck that means. Whether it's, getting other guys reps at practice, changing how they, go about Wednesday through Saturday. It reminds me so much of like when I hear that, I was like, okay, slow pitch beer softball league when you're struggling and you just like shake up the batting order and, we would draw cards sometimes to, okay, all right, you're shortstop. Nope, you're playing left field now. Or, okay, you're catcher. Nope, you're playing shortstop now, that sort of stuff. So I don't know. I doubt it would be something to that effect, but I don't really know what the shakeup is going to be. It's probably nothing that honestly we're going to notice or really pay attention to this week. But some of his other comments, he was kind of honest in a lot of stuff. Said seems like somebody's making a mistake every play on offense, and that quote, right now we're not at a point where we're good enough to overcome some of those mistakes. He did say left tackle is up for discussion this week, not committing to either Rasheed Walker or Yash. Asked about, the evaluation of Jordan Love. I think in order to do that, about the bigger picture Jordan Love, everybody's got to play better around him. He didn't, according to Matt Schneidman, didn't absolve Love of any blame. but also pretty much made it clear that it's just more than the quarterback, more than the quarterback. And after the game, LaFleur had estimated that there was about 6 drop passes, and he said yesterday there was more drop passes. So Rashawn Gary also chatted a little bit with the local media. He actually signed the contract on Saturday, so it was before the game. But he didn't really, it sounds like, had any interest in testing free agency, saying Green Bay was the team that drafted him, and that's where he wanted to stay. So, but we'll talk a little football, including maybe the Packers going up against a different quarterback this week, and not Matt Stafford, as the Rams come to Green Bay. Matthew Stafford has a UCL sprain and is day to day, according to his head coach Sean McVay. We'll see what how that kind of transpires throughout the week. So we'll hit that up coming up here a little bit. It is a Grind My Gears Tuesday. So anything that's grinding your gears, hit us up with a text on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Also, we'll talk some Badgers with our Badger analyst, RJ Cardinal, the zone in Madison over there. Badger hockey skyrocketing in the rankings now. Number 5 team, number 5 team, 5th team in the country ranking there, and that's what happens when you go 4 wins against ranked opponents. And now is it you got Michigan? Yeah, Michigan coming up this weekend. So another opportunity here. It's a top 5 matchup. Another opportunity here for the Badgers, maybe to even climb up higher in the rankings. But another good test, and this is going to be going on in Madison. This one's going to be at the Kohl Center on Friday and Saturday. So we'll talk to RJ about that coming up in a couple hours from now, about 8:20 this morning. And plus, we'll talk a little Badger football taking on Indiana and his thoughts from what he witnessed or watched at against Ohio State in the stadium and such. So, Badger chat with Mr. RJ Cardinal coming up in a couple hours from now. But let's get things going here this morning. Let's get the lead off going here. I want to talk a little baseball with the council updates. We'll talk a little green and gold as well. We'll throw in a little hoops talk there too with the Bucks picking up a win last night. It is also NFL trade deadline day today. Do you think now? Try to put on your GM cap and take away the personal emotions here a little bit. Because I know when I'm going to ask this question, there might be some that's their heart will come into it, or their personal emotions will come into it. So think of it from a business standpoint, that sort of thing. Should the Packers make any moves, whether they're sellers or adding? Like, I don't know who they would add, to be honest with you. We mentioned a couple names that they could move on from, and I can't believe this. So I had to double check this though too when it came to when it comes to the Packers here. When you look at if this is something that you're still kind of eyeing up or you're still paying attention to, but in the NFC, Packers aren't quite out of the playoff yet. Yeah, they're what, 2 games back or something like that. I mean, I guess they can go on a run here, just how everything's playing out in the NFC, because Minnesota is holding on to the 7th spot, the final spot. They're sitting at 4-4. Now they don't have a quarterback. New Orleans, 4-4. Packers would hold a tiebreaker against them in head-to-head. Then you got Tampa Bay at 3-4, Rams at 3-5, Washington 3-5, and Green Bay at 2-5. I mean, so a couple. So maybe if you're a fan that's still like, hey, we got plenty of games left to go, and they can make a run. I kind of talked about it yesterday. I think the best outcome for Green Bay, unless you want a really high draft pick, would be something like the Lions last year. Just playing really well at the end of the season and maybe gives you some confidence going in the offseason into next year. But if with the trade deadline today, do you think maybe the better question to ask is, do you think Green Bay will make any moves? Do you think they will? What do you got? Hit me up with some texts. 715-830-1912. So we'll get things going here. We'll take our first break, and then coming up, the leadoff. We'll throw in a mixture of stuff. We'll throw in some Packers. We'll throw in some baseball talk. We got hoops, all that good stuff. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Wisconsin's unofficial holiday season is nearly upon us. That's the 9-day deer gun hunting season. So get your best Blaze orange gear rounded up and get your deer camp ready. Wait, what about your deer rifle? It's kind of an important thing to get to have ready for this upcoming season. That's where Tilden Gun can help you out. Need a new rifle to head to the woods with this season? Visit Tilden Gun and check out their awesome lineup of new and used deer rifles. And while you're there, grab some ammo, a case, sling, scope, targets, and whatever other accessories you need to help you get ready for the upcoming 9-day deer gun hunting season. This is the time of year when memories are made in the great outdoors. Getting your first deer or seeing your child get their first deer, hanging out with friends and family at the cabin. Until the Gun wants to help make sure this is another memorable deer season for you and your family and friends. So visit them today at 12427 98th Avenue in Chippewa Falls and visit their website, tildengun.com. Best of luck and be safe this hunting season. All right, let's get some things going here this morning. Got the lead off here. We got a quick question from David. It looks like on the texting line there. Do you think Craig Counsell would seriously consider taking the Cleveland Guardians managerial position? I think the fact that he's talking with them, I think he's at least open to it. I don't know, Craig. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I think he's in a unique position where his stock is incredibly high. Some may not like that or agree with that, but his stock is incredibly high right now. And I think he's in a unique position that he's like, you know what? I kind of hold a lot of cards in this thing. I'm just going to do some due diligence. I might not have this opportunity again. I'm just going to talk to other ball clubs and see what they have to hear, see what they have to say, see what they have to offer. And I think he just wants to make a decision that's best for him and how he views is best for him and best for his family too. Because this might not happen again, to kind of have all these cards, to kind of have, everything in your corner. Because a lot of teams would hire Craig Counsell to be their manager, would love to have Craig Counsell be their manager. And I think right now he's taking his time. He's looking at all the options that are available to him. And, how many of us would, if you've put yourself in that position, whether it was in your job or in a similar situation to Counsell, if you had others vying for you, would you at least talk to other people just to see what they had to say and see what it's about? I think a lot of us would probably say yes. A lot of us would probably be like, okay, I'm kind of curious. If your stock's that high and people are looking at you and interested in you, yeah, but a lot of people would probably say yes. Not everybody. Don't want to say everybody because not everybody's would go that route. But I think honestly that's what Counsell's doing right now. He's willing to talk to a lot of different ball clubs who want to talk to him. Kind of just hear what they have to say. Kind of hear about maybe their operations, how they go about business. Because I think he knows too, this might not be, he might not have another opportunity to do this. You don't know what the future is going to be like. So I'm a little surprised, and it could instantly change here too, because we're still, World Series is going on and such. What the Padres want to talk to him, you haven't really heard a whole lot about that one. But, or maybe it's already kind of been floated out there. He's like, nah, nope. Maybe he's not a West Coast guy. I don't know. He's played out over there in the West Coast. We know that. Arizona and such. Hot minute with the Dodgers. But I don't know. I just think he's doing his due diligence right now. Whether he would seriously, I think he's entertaining it. I think he's serious about that. And I think he's serious about, going on the interview and talking with them. But I think he's doing his due diligence right now. As much as Brewers fans are probably getting a little bit nervous, a little bit, anxious about the whole thing. I would be curious to know what that offer was, reportedly, that the Brewers gave Craig Counsell at the end of the season. I'm just kind of curious to see what that number is. And is there room for adjustment? If he goes to the Mets and to the Guardians and they offer him a little bit more and he comes back to the Brewers with that, would the Brewers match it? I'm sure it was probably a way, for if somebody's asking why would the Brewers offer him anything at the end of the season before, and knowing that he's probably taken, some interviews. And I think it was probably a last ditch effort by the Brewers to say, hey, Craig, you don't need to go talk to anybody else. We're going to offer you this. Let's get this thing done. It was probably a last-ditch effort to get Counsell to sign on the dotted line. But Counsell has held true to his words since spring training and at the beginning of the year. And he's taken his time with it. But I'd be curious to know where that number is at. And I'm sure the fact that he's, has gotten a number from the Brewers, I'm sure the other teams know what that number is. And I'm sure some of them, like maybe the Mets, would have no problem adding a little bit more to it, knowing they may have to add a little bit more to it. Cost of living is a little bit different for New York and Milwaukee and such. But just to kind of I'm curious to see what the Brewers' offer was, because I would hope it wasn't such a lowball offer where it pissed off Counsell. And where he's like, no, if that's what you guys think, no, maybe it's just time for me to move on. I'd hope it's not a lowball offer that would upset Counsell. That to me would be like, you just kind of putting the nail in the coffin at that point, and potentially saying, yeah, you know what, you just messed up any sort of chance of Counsell coming back. So that's what I feel. Hopefully answered your question over there. But I, as a Brewers fan here, would love this situation to be resolved here fairly quickly, and would like it to be Counsell signs up with the crew. But man's taking his time. This is a big decision. It might be the only time, too. Let's face it. Might be the only time or opportunity for Counsell to kind of dictate where he wants to go. When we talk about this with players in free agency, this might be the only time for Counsell to kind of dictate where he wants to go. Not a lot of managers, coaches are in a position like Counsell where, one, they hit free agency, but also when they hit free agency, their stock is so high where they can be like, you know what, I'm going to hold off on re-signing with my team. I want to see what's out there. Not a lot of coaches or managers are getting in that position. Sometimes it's a fired manager or coach, and they really got to impress that team and really hit that interview and kind of convince that team to hire them. Counsell's kind of, it's almost flip-flops in this situation where you have a lot of coaches and managers where they go to these interviews and, they're trying to convince the team to hire them. I feel like it's different in this instance where it's like the team, is bringing in Counsell, and the team is selling themselves to Counsell saying, Greg, pick us. Pick us. We want you to come here. It's almost like, player free agency where you're convincing the player to sign with you. That first wave of free agency where you see all the big money getting spent. The legal tampering period. Where it's not, where you're really interviewing the player to see if they're a fit for you. You're trying to convince the player to get to you. This is where Counsell's in. He holds the cards. He's not going on these interviews to convince the team to hire him. He's on a recruiting trip right now. It's like he's back in high school and he's like the top prospect out there, and he's going on these recruiting trips and saying, all right, who has the best offer for me? Where's the best fit? Probably won't ever have this experience again. Why not take advantage of it? I'll tell you what, I'd seriously consider it. It would be hard for me to maybe kind of leave my hometown team. That, I think, for me personally, it would be kind of hard. and you know your stock is incredibly high with your hometown team, you're kind of a big fish in a small pond there. But I think one thing I think we can all assume with Council is that at this point, I think he would love nothing more than to win a World Series for the Brewers. But I ultimately think he wants to just win, and he wants to add some more rings to his collection, the two from from his playing days, and he wants to add one for as a manager. But we'll see how it all plays out. We'll see how it all plays out here. So again, I hope answered your question. I might went a little long on there, but I'm kind of getting nervous. I'm kind of getting nervous right now. So, but all right, let's switch gears here a bit. Talk a little green and gold. We mentioned some of the comments from Matt LaFleur yesterday. Matt LaFleur also saying we can all see it's a talented group about the offense. We've just got to make sure we get everybody on the same page. It seems like every play we're out there, something happens. Somebody makes a mistake, and it sets everybody back. Mistakes are part of this game. They are. But right now, we're not at a point where we're good enough to overcome parts of these mistakes. He said that he's not using youth as an excuse. Has even mentioned that he hasn't even mentioned youth to this young Packers team since day one of the season. Quote, it's our circumstance. It is what it is. The expectation is whoever's wearing that G on their helmet, out on the field, we go execute at a championship level. And we're not there yet. As he said, we're not there yet. And I know some people are probably rolling their eyes hearing those quotes or seeing those quotes. But is he wrong? He's not wrong, right? I mean, he's right now he's saying his team, no, we're not good enough to overcome this. We're not good enough to be a championship team. And I know like some are like, no duh, coach. What do you expect him to say though? Would you rather hear him say, hey, we're going out there, we're trying, we're giving it our best, that typical? No, I think you'd be more annoyed and upset about that stuff. I did say for the trade deadline that quote, that's not even a part of my thinking. My thinking is all about how do we get our guys feeling comfortable with what they're doing, playing fast, playing confident, and executing. Yeah, I think that would probably be the last thing Matt LaFleur is thinking about is the trade deadline. Now, I know I asked, do you think the Packers will make a trade or should they make a trade? I don't think they'll make a trade to add. I mean, okay, I'll backtrack on that. If you're trading, you're kind of getting something in return, so you're adding. I don't think they're making a trade to get a player. And if they're going to trade one of their players for draft picks. That's if they do anything. If they do anything at all, I think that's the moves that they're going to make. And I guess, if we want to look at the Packers, potential free agents coming up next year, is there somebody that they can move on from? Let me bring up their 2024 free agents. So, I mean, Yash. Could Yash be a potential trade? Now, with the uncertainty at left tackle, that probably went out the window. That probably went bye-bye. Other than that, I mean, because you're looking at, okay, a player who maybe isn't going to be under contract next year, do you move on from them now? Maybe a few weeks ago, I would have said Yash because it looked like they were dead set on Walker. But now with the play at left tackle where they don't even know who's going to play over there, I think that kind of maybe takes it off the table. Keyshawn Nixon, I don't think will be traded. Darnell Savage is hurt right now in IR. They wouldn't get anything for him. Ford is your starting safety. Maybe no. You'd be like, okay, well, A.J. Dillon. Now you're talking about, guys who are just like chunk change on the roster right now. There really isn't, when you look at free agent wise, there really isn't guys where you're looking like, okay, we could trade them and, get something in return for them. Then you kind of look at, okay, who's got the big hits for for 2024? Well, that would be Bakhtiari, but nobody's going to trade for him at this point. He's, you can release him and save some money that way. Jair, I don't think they'll trade Jair. I mean, that actually would cost them more than a dead cap hit. Preston Smith saves you a couple million. Aaron Jones saves you a few million. Devondre Campbell. I mean, we talked, I threw out two names of Campbell and Preston Smith yesterday. I don't think they'll trade Rasul Douglas. But I guess never know. Right now, with even not to look too far ahead, and I don't want to get, talking about off seasons in 2024 and that sort of stuff. But I mean, if you're looking at 2024 with cap space, with Bakhtiari's cap number in 2024 on there, Green Bay has about $16.6 million available in cap space. Now, if we wanted to let me see if I can have a little fun with this according to Spot Track here. Again, I know I'm kind of violating my own rule here, but if we release Bakhtiari, we go from about 17 million available in cap space, skyrockets up to 39. 39 available in cap space. If we move on from Aaron Jones, you save about 5 million. So now you're up to about 44 and a half. I mean, that one move of David Bakhtiari for next year, for next year of releasing him, you go from about, and I know these numbers vary, and honestly, they don't have the Rashawn Gary contract up here yet. So, I mean, the numbers are going to vary here a little bit. But just to give you an idea of why, Green Bay needs a left tackle. They need a left tackle. And I know David Bakhtiari is planning on playing next year. But if Green Bay really wants to free up some cap space here and maybe just kind of move on from the Bakhtiari knee, I think they would love to keep the player. Because, I mean, for crying out loud, when he did play Chicago, he looked like the old David Bakhtiari, but that knee is such a wild card. But one player, moving on from him next year, you go from about $17 million to almost $40 million available in cap space. So, yeah, I don't think Green Bay will make any trades today. I don't. I don't see it. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised if they do move on from like a Devondre or a Preston. I don't think they'll do that. I really don't. But I could be wrong. I didn't think there was going to be any big trades. But, you got Leonard Williams, who is now going over to Seattle. Seattle's looking at this like, okay, hey, we're leading a division right now, playing some good football, and they got a little bit better too, especially on defense. All right, let's take a quick break here. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Finish up this first hour. When it comes to staying active and living pain-free, trust the experts at Triple Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. From weekend warriors to professional athletes, their team of board-certified orthopedic specialists are there to keep you in the game. At Triple Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, they offer cutting-edge treatments and personalized care to help you recover faster and perform better. Don't let pain hold you back. Visit their state-of-the-art facility where they're dedicated to getting you back to doing what you love to do. Visit cvosm.com to schedule an appointment and take the first steps towards a healthier, active you. We'll get back to some more green and gold chat coming up next hour here. Dave, would you trade Love to start over? No, I would not trade Love at this point before the deadline. No, I don't think you benefit or do anything with that move. A question: would you leave your hometown radio station if Wichita offered twice the salary, syndicated you, and gave you better hours? Would you stay without the premises of better conditions for winning? Never say never, right? And I'll just leave it at that. Never say never. That's all. I'll just leave it there. So look at every opportunity that would present you. So okay, we only got about 7 minutes to the top here. Bucks picked up the win last night against the Miami Heat. Bucks kind of controlled it, especially second, third quarter there. They allowed Miami to make a little bit of a comeback in the fourth quarter there. Miami putting up 41 points. But ultimately, Bucks holding on to that 122 to 114 victory. Bucks keeping Jimmy Butler pretty quiet, only 13 points, but Wisconsin native Tyler Hero in front of the hometown crowd putting up 35 points. 35 points in 42 minutes of action, 12 of 21 from the field, including 2 of 5 from 3. So doing a lot of his damage inside the 3-point line. Giannis leading the way for the Bucks, dropping 33 points. Damian Lillard bouncing back after a poor shooting performance the night prior on Sunday night. He finished with 25 points. Bobby Portis and Cameron Payne offering a nice spark off the bench for the Bucks last night there too. But Chris Middleton, it is clearly obvious they are still really managing that knee. Speaking of David Bakhtiari in the next or in the previous segment there, knee management, it's giving you flashbacks of kind of that Bucks fans with the whole David Bakhtiari thing going on right now. But didn't play Sunday night. Adrian Griffin saying it's part of the plan not to go back to back on, playing in both games in a back to back situation there. But just 17 minutes in the game last night, only 5 points, kind of working his way back, and probably some conditioning part of that too, because he only played one preseason game and it was the final preseason game of the season. So Bucks being cautious, Bucks being, patient, not wanting to push it. And I think too, that's probably another big reason why they made the Damian Lillard trade. I still believe that they probably don't make that move, or maybe become a little bit more aggressive with that move if maybe Giannis isn't out there making some of those public comments. But that's where I kind of look at, making that move for Damian Lillard to bring him in to be your number two. It kind of gives you the luxury to be a little cautious with Chris Middleton, to be a little patient with Chris Middleton. Now, I know there's probably some Bucks fans looking at this and saying, well, they just, they re-signed Chris Middleton. He got a nice deal and such, and he's only playing 15, 16, 17 minutes in 2 games so far this season, only putting up a few points here or there. Let's see how Chris Middleton's doing in a couple months. Let's see around Christmas and right after Christmas. See where he's at. See where his game's at. See where his health is at right now at this point in time. I think they have a little bit of a luxury to be patient with Chris Middleton and such. But let's kind of see where it's at maybe in January, right after Christmas, that sort of thing. So, all right. Coming up next hour, we'll get to some sports nuggets of the day. Don't forget, it is a Studs and Duds Tuesday. Who are your, or not Studs and Duds, excuse me, Grind My Gears Tuesday. Studs and Duds was yesterday. I'm getting my days mixed up. But it is a Grind My Gears Tuesday. Anything that grinding your gears, hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. We'll talk some Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal coming up at about 8:20 this morning. Badger men's hockey skyrocketing up in the rankings. We got another top 5 matchup between them and Michigan at the back end of this week. Badger men's hockey could really make some waves if they go out there and maybe pick up another sweep, another series win against a ranked opponent out there. So good times right now with Badger men's hockey. We'll revisit the Ohio State game with RJ as well and look ahead to their Indiana matchup. We'll finish up the hour though with Morgan. Good morning, Morgan.
Happy Halloween.
You too.
Where does Halloween rank in your favorite holidays list?
Maybe third.
Okay, so let me guess. Christmas?
Yep.
President's Day?
Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah. I like Thanksgiving, too.
Mhm.
That's great. So what about Hudson? Is this one of his? Like, kids usually bump Halloween pretty high on the list because, you know.
He's not a trick-or-treating kid.
No?
Nope.
Doesn't like going.
He didn't even want to bring his costume to school today.
Now, did he settle on superhero?
He's Captain America, yeah.
Now, take us back into the Dan Kasper archives. What was your favorite standout Halloween costume throughout the years as a kid? Do you have one?
I don't know if I had a favorite. I can remember some of them.
Like, what were maybe like some of the top ones? Because I remember in kindergarten, this was when my mom used to go all out. Like, she for like 2 years, she really was hands on, and then she just was like, "Hey, I'm done." But she made a Rainbow Bright costume for me, like sewed a Rainbow Bright costume, and I remember this so clearly because I loved the costume. I wanted to like live in that thing. My aunt drew freckles on me. And I burst into tears because I thought she drew them too big. She said, "Get out of here. Get out in the bathroom. Go figure it out," kind of thing. But I clearly remember that Rainbow Bright costume. Like, it lives in infamy. What about your childhood memories? Best costume?
I don't know if I remember I hope I was Batman at one point, but I can't remember if I ever was.
Dude, it's not too late to still be Batman.
I know. Well, Hudson,
if George Clooney can pretend to do it, you may as well hop on board.
Hudson wouldn't let me wear his Batman mask today, so
Hudson, share with Dad, man.
I know.
Why don't you talk him into doing like Batman and Robin?
Because then we would fight who's Batman and who's Robin.
Well, someone's got to take Robin.
It could just be Batman and Batman.
It's kind of like Mario and Luigi
sort of thing.
Mario and Luigi, poor Luigi in the green always gets.
See, everybody, I was this way as a kid. Hudson's kind of the same way. I wanted to be Luigi when we were playing Mario Brothers on Nintendo.
Why?
Because he was green.
Okay, that is true. I mean, if you're gonna go completely color coordinated, that brings out the Packers and the Bucks. That's work for that.
I know I was Superman in kindergarten.
So you followed pretty much the traditional.
Yeah. Then I remember my last costume.
Ooh.
I was Men in Black.
Well, okay. So wait, when did you stop dressing up? Like, have you and V as adults done couple costumes or anything like that?
Nope. That's kind of one of my. I never did a Halloween party in college.
Oh man!
I mean, I went out, but we never did our own party or anything like that.
That's part of the fun. I will say this, as somebody that I used to live on the East Hill, I appreciate parents that also dress up and go all out and get into it with the kids. That's just fun to see. So I would always like keep a secret stash of.
Hudson didn't want us to do that. I even offered to dress up as Yoshi.
Oh yeah, that would be good. V could be the princess. You guys could bring the whole Mario.
I think
Brothers
he doesn't want to be embarrassed already as a 6-year-old. So.
Oh, see, I embarrass Siggy early and often.
Yeah.
I got to get it out of the way for him. Like there's no worries here. Not only do I enjoy it, I strive for it at this point.
Favorite Halloween candy before I let you
go? You don't do Reese's.
Nope.
I'll take yours. I always feel like Reese's wins them all. I have to say. Why? What about
you? I was always I always called it when I was a kid a Caramello bar.
Caramello, right?
Yes. Okay. But I always called it Caramello.
You know what? Today's actually National Caramel Day, and I'm going to call it right here. Talk about grind my gears. We don't need 3 syllables. Caramel works just fine, guys.
That's true.
Caramel, pinkies down. Yep. Pinkies down.
All right, here we go. Second hour kicking off this morning. Happy Halloween, everybody. A little bit of a snowy Halloween out there. Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. Coming up this hour, we'll get back to a little green and gold chats. We've got Badger chats. We've got some Badger chats coming up next hour with Mr. RJ Cardinal. It is a grind my gears. It is a grind my gears Tuesday. Hit us up with what's grinding your gears. Living a dream, Jeff. Apparently, Morgan grinded his gears. Caramels are hard. Caramel is soft. That's Morgan just grinding my gears, apparently. So I honestly didn't know. So there, whatever. Caramel, don't matter to me. It's the same thing. So let's go. Okay, what's your favorite Halloween candy then, everybody? Hit us up with the text 715-830-1912. Shoot Doctor's Bullpen. What's you got some kiddos? What are you digging through in the trick or treat bucket out there, huh? What are you digging through and making sure that maybe mom or dad get first dibs on? What's your go-to one over there? Let's do some sports nuggets of the day, including I got a little pop quiz question to hit you up with. See how well you know your Milwaukee Bucks history. Because first, 1950, Earl Lloyd with the Washington Capitals became the first African-American to play in an NBA game. 1968, the Milwaukee Bucks won their first game. First game. Franchise history. Okay? Your trivia question is who did they beat? And who is their leading scorer for extra credit? Without looking it up. Don't cheat. Give me your best guess. But 1968, the inaugural season for the Bucks, they won their first game on this day in history. Who did they beat? And for extra credit, who was the Bucks' leading scorer? Okay. See what you got. Give me your best guesses. I will give you a hint on the leading scorer for the Bucks if you know your history, okay? If you know your Bucks history or basketball history, he is in the Hall of Fame. Okay. I'll just kind of give you that hint. He is in the Hall of Fame. If that helps you, he's a 5-time All-Star. His only season with the Bucks was that season. All right, so try not to look it up. So, all right. What else do we got for some sports nuggets of the day here? We've got, all right, 2010, for the first time in Major League history, 2 former presidents attended the same World Series game. George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush both attended Game 4 at Rangers Ballpark in Arlington, Texas. All right, those are just some of your sports nuggets of the day, brought to you by Yancey Associates. We got a couple more texts to get to here. It looks like the majority of you don't think the Packers will make a move or should make a move. Gregory saying, I don't think the Packers will make a move by the deadline today. I also don't feel like they have to or should make a move by the deadline today. I know some names have been floated out there. As you mentioned, Preston Smith was floated out there over the weekend. I just don't see it happening. Call it a gut feeling. We've got also Thomas saying, I don't think the Packers will make any moves before the deadline today. Wouldn't be surprised, though, if they do maybe trade one of their veterans for some more draft pick capital. Remember, I think it was Goody's first year before the deadline. He did trade a couple veterans, younger veterans, though, but like Clinton Dix, who was, I think at that time approaching whether you were going to give him a big contract or not, still on his rookie deal, I believe. Don't quote me. I'll have to double check that. Ty Montgomery was also traded, and that was after the Rams game where it was like the kickoff debacle thing there. So those guys were moved for some late picks and such. Yeah, I mean, if Green Bay makes a move, I don't see them bringing in a veteran that would help them out now. I mean, I know they're technically not out of it, but I don't think that would be something that they would entertain at this point in time. If anything, I could see them moving on from a couple of veterans and maybe just stacking up some of the draft picks and looking ahead to 2024 picks and getting some talent there. Maybe just stockpiling some picks and making some moves elsewhere. I don't see Green Bay making any moves before the deadline. I don't see it happening at this point. So, and then yeah, we've got Travis also chiming in here too, saying if Green Bay were to make a move, it's probably just to get some draft picks in play. If I had to rank them, I think it would be Preston Smith 1, Devondre Campbell 2, Aaron Jones 3 as the most likely candidates to be traded before today's deadline. So, well, if anything does pop up while we're on the air this morning, I will for sure let you know if there's any trades to be made out there. But we'll see. I know there's some talk about maybe the Bears trading their corner Johnson and such. But yeah, this was Eric texted in asking, do you think Devontae Adams is really regretting moving to the or requesting a trade to the Raiders? I'm assuming, Eric, you're kind of talking about last night after the game. The Lions, defeated the Raiders Monday Night Football. Devontae Adams, camera caught him displaying some of his frustration, slamming his helmet down on the sideline, sitting on the bench by himself. Devontae Adams, even after the game, said, "I don't know what to say at this moment. I truly don't." I don't know if he's regretting it. I mean, he's, things would change. I mean, butterfly effect. And I know Devontae, he probably would have had like a huge long touchdown pass there, would have been like 90 some yards, but Jimmy Garoppolo overthrew him or such. And there's actually it was but a couple of them he missed him on. But, I don't know if he at this point in time misses Green Bay, because it would have been such a butterfly effect. If he stays, maybe Green Bay keeps Aaron and then Jordan Love's not on the team. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a trickle-down effect here, possibly, potentially here. I know they always say it's not always greener on the other side. And what was it? Aaron famously said last year, the year before, it's green where you wet it, or where you water it or something like that, kind of insinuating, well, you kind of, it's up to you to make the best out of a situation and such. So I think Devontae obviously really wanted to play with Derek Carr, wanted to get back on the West Coast, that sort of thing. Derek Carr, not there, only got, 3/4 of a season in with his BFF, with his best friend. I don't think Devontae will be traded by today. I think if I'm a contending team that may be a wide receiver away, at least I'm exploring that possibility with the Raiders. I would at least be picking up the phone and asking, hey, is it possible? Are you open to this? You might have to spend a little bit, knowing you're going to get a big contract in return over there too. Chiefs, I would be shocked if the Raiders traded within in the division, for a guy for Devontae Adams. I'm trying to think of some other teams off the top of my head. Maybe like contenders, this year. Wow, would it be something if somehow the Lions acquired him? Jeez Louise, and him and St. Brown and such. Oh boy, golly, don't let that happen, for crying out loud. But I don't think he will. I think it might be something more in terms of the offseason at this place. So, but yeah. So I already answered Dave already answered the Love one. Love for sale. I wouldn't know. He's not getting traded. Jordan Love is not getting traded, nor do I think should you trade him at this point. So no, he's off the market. So, what could the Packers trade to get huge draft capital? Only player is Aaron Jones. That still wouldn't be a high draft pick. Very few players with high grades that are trade bait, and who has trusts and picks with this horrid front office. To be fair, they've actually kind of drafted fairly well. I mean, I think they've you look at you compare it to a lot of other teams. Goody hasn't done that bad compared to. No, you're not going to get first round picks for any of these players. I mean, that's you're trading off veterans to just get draft capital like mid round picks. So I don't think anybody's expecting first round picks or anything like that. That's just not going to happen. I mean, that's unrealistic. And the only players out there that would maybe garner you a first round pick is potentially a guy like Devontae Adams on the trade market. I don't even think what was McCaffrey's trade package last year. I don't even think 49ers sent a first round pick for him out there. So I mean, yeah, you trade Aaron Jones, it's probably going to be a third round pick somewhere out there. So that's just what the selling price is. That's what the going price is at this point. So kind of on the flip side here, we've got Chris saying, I hope Goody does trade some of his veterans like a Preston, like a Devondre Campbell, get some of those mid round picks and continue to build. You look at his track record, and a lot of his picks have been fairly good in recent years. Give him credit where credit's due. Rashawn Gary has been a hit. Jair was not a bad pick, although he's struggling, it looks like right now, and some of his other ones. Everybody focuses too much. Another texter just came in. Everybody focuses too much on his Jordan Love pick and has the blinders on. All right, well, maybe we'll save the draft talk until when we get to draft season or something like that. So, all right, we got a couple more texts coming in here. This texter, don't have a name. Give me a name so I can call you by your name and just say unknown texter. But unknown texter, no name here, saying that I don't think the Packers will make any trades, although wouldn't be surprising if they moved one of their veterans for a mid-round pick just to acquire more picks for the upcoming 2024 draft. Okay, so pretty much, I mean, we're kind of a lot of people are kind of on the same boat right now when it comes to potential trade and deadlines and all that stuff, all that fun stuff out there. So, all right, tell you what, let's take a quick break. We'll have some more green and gold chats coming up here. Plus, Badger chat. Been a good couple weeks for the Badger men's hockey team. Can they keep it going against Michigan at the end of this week? Today may be Halloween, but next week it's going to be Veterans Day, and we're going to be at a couple locations. So next Friday, November 10th, Hy-Vee does their Veterans Day breakfast. We'll be doing a show over there again like we did last year. So stop on by. If you're a veteran, come on in for a free breakfast from our good friends over there at Hy-Vee. And then on the 11th, we're going to be visiting our friends Habitat for Humanity. We're going to be visiting our friends Habitat for Humanity because they've got an open house. If you remember a while back, they're going to take a look at, or they purchased that Grace Lutheran School, and they're going to be converting it into 11 apartments for unhoused veterans. And so they're going to be doing a little bit of an open house Saturday, 1 to 4 p.m. We can meet some local veterans who have served the country and the community, view the school and the future apartment plans. There's going to be some games for the kiddos and such, getting an update on Chippewa Valley's Habitat for Humanity's, or getting an update on Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity's plan to build 19 housing units in the next 12 months. So we're going to be there. My family is going to be there. We're going to be checking it out as well, but kind of an open house next Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. So we got a couple Veterans Day events planned up. So hopefully we'll see you at some of those, whether it's the breakfast at Hy-Vee on Friday morning, whether it's that, or maybe seeing you Saturday at the Grace Lutheran School that Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity is going to be converting into apartments for unhoused veterans over there. So a lot of good stuff there. Looking forward to another good weekend next week. Sam, not Surveyor, but another Sam on our texting line. What grinds my gears is whiny Packers fans. All right, here we go. I was waiting to see if somebody was going to do this, but here we go. Sam is saying a bunch of entitled Packers fans chiming in about fire this person, trade this person. What in the world did you expect from this team this year? If you still had Super Bowl aspirations or Super Bowl goals or deep playoff runs for this team, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and check yourself. Simmer down, everybody. You had way too high expectations. Or at least we should have, for some of you, should have known that this was going to be a process, a rebuild, whatever the heck you want to call it. But seriously, tone it down on the fire this person, fire that person, trade this person, get rid of this person, you entitled fans. Ooh, Sam coming in hot. Surveyor Sam chiming into, I couldn't have said it better myself. Way to go, fellow Sam. How about that? All right, so we got both Sams out there saying that. All right. Anybody else want to counter that with a little grind my gears Tuesday? Sam Surveyor, it's good to hear from you, man. I was actually thinking about you, Surveyor, because on Sunday before the game started, I was actually tuning in a little bit to the Rugby World Cup there on NBC. Had a couple TVs going on at the same time there, and then kind of just focused on the football game. But all right. I was kind of thinking about you, and then you never chimed in there. So how'd that turn out? I honestly don't know how it turned out. I'd have to look it up. I think I was watching it up until halftime and such, trying to get into, your sports and that. So Richie also chiming in. The Sams know what's up. All right, so Richie agrees with the fellow Sams. So okay. I'm glad to see we've got some others, because really after Mondays, let's be honest here, after Mondays, after a game like that, you hear more about the people, about fans complaining and firing and, trade and do this and that. But the patient fans they're kind of quiet on Mondays. So we got a couple coming out right now. This is your time right now, Packers fans. This is your time right now to chime in. What would you patient Packers fans What would you patient Packers fans have to say to maybe some fans who are a little maybe impatient, maybe a little frustrated right now? Surveyor, Richie, other Sam, if you want to chime in too, maybe this is your opportunity to kind of get something off your chest. Surveyor, it was a brilliant game with South Africa pulling out a 12-11 victory and closing their fourth Webb Ellis Cup. So, all right. I'm opening the door. I'm opening the door for you patient Packers fans because you're not the vocalist. You know, we're not the vocalist group. But this is your opportunity now. If you are one of those patient Packers fans, what would you tell a fan right now, a Packers fan right now, who is saying, fire everybody and trade everybody out there? Now's your time. Text me, 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Reminder, too, don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Man Cave podcast brought to you by Toyson Ford and Hy-Vee, available on your favorite podcasting platforms like Apple, Spotify, or at sportstalk1051.com. And while you're there, don't forget to give it a 5-star rating and a review. You can review your plumbing or anything like that. Just put a review out there. That way, how the internet works, that signals, a review out there, and it lets other people know about the podcast, spreads the word out there a little bit more too. AI, all that fun stuff out there. So check it out on Apple, Spotify, sportstalk1051.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Joe, are you a part of the patient group or the inpatient group right now?
I'm part of the patient group.
Yeah.
Look, nobody's getting fired.
Mm-hmm.
No one's getting I don't want to say no one's getting traded, but you can't jump off the ledge right now if you're a Packer fan. I tweeted out this morning, have the Packers gone back in time? And I tweeted a picture of Bart
nice
Starr.
Jacket, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Is
you.
that like suede?
I'm looking.
George Costanza suede.
You know what? People, it's funny because when I meet people for the first time, they're like, "You have a voice for radio," and I'm like, "Well, as long as but I want to look TV though.
Mm-hmm.
That's voice for radio. I want to have that TV look.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of my goal."
I like it.
Thank you, Captain. I appreciate that. So, no, look, Packer fans, back off the ledge, sit down, make yourself a drink, and relax.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers on y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, expectations for this football team this year. Let's go back to it. I understand Green Bay is about winning football, but that's only since 1992.
Mm-hmm.
The 70s and 80s were not about winning football. And I know younger Packer fans, they hate it when I bring that up.
Right.
Because I sound like the old guy telling kids to get off my lawn, because I'm like, you guys don't have any idea what it was to be a Packer fan in the 70s and 80s. And so, I thought it was one of the writers in the Green Bay Press Gazette said, the best message this organization can send is actually be buyers with the trade deadline coming up today. I believe 3:00 today.
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah. So, I think if Green Bay does anything, I think they might be a buyer. Right now, Brian Gutekunst needs to look himself in the mirror. And I heard the two Sams talking as far as Packer fans looking themselves in the mirror. Goody needs to look himself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
He built this roster. And if anyone can tell me that Jordan Love is given the best opportunity to be successful right now, they're full of crap.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the drop passes.
Yeah.
LaFleur had, I believe, at least 6. I counted 8.
Yeah, I think he said yesterday after he watched it, there was more.
Yeah,
so.
I looked back and again, the Packers right now are the worst team in the NFL on contested catches.
Yep, they are 25.7%. Next closest is the Jets. Actually,
and last year they were close to 50%, which is why the term 50-50 ball comes about. So, look, is anyone happy right now? No. Are there a lot of frustrations from inside the organization?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Are there frustrations from Packer fans? Absolutely. And I don't think you have any clue right now whether or not Jordan Love is going to be a player or not, because are there signs? Are there glimmers of hope? Yes. The throw he made while being tackled across his body to Dontavian Wicks for a first down, that was a tremendous throw. The dime he dropped to Dobbs on that first drive, and of course brought back by a penalty, that was a great throw. The pass to Jaden Reed where it ended up being an interception, that was the only place where that ball goes. Now, does he also get happy feet, and does he not set his feet with his throws? Yes. You know, his footwork still needs work, but you just can't right now. You can't make these rash decisions. Now, in the offseason, let's say the Green Bay Packers go 4-13, which is a distinct possibility. Could there be some changes this offseason? Absolutely. Do I see Matt LaFleur getting fired? Absolutely not. Do I have questions about Matt LaFleur? I have more questions about LaFleur than I do about Jordan Love. And I go back, and I tweeted this out the other day, Captain. I go back to the quote that Robert Saleh had last year after the game, after the Jets game. And he said, you know, we were just going to continue to give them body blows and give them body blows. And then we're going to let them swim in the deep end. And I'm paraphrasing, but we're going to let them swim in the deep end until they drown. And that said something to me about Robert Saleh's impression of Matt LaFleur as a head coach. And those two are best friends.
Yeah, they're BFFs.
So I don't know if Matt LaFleur is tough enough or has demand as high as you need from that head coaching position. We're going to see the back half this year. If LaFleur keeps the locker room together and this team, say the rest of the year, say they get 5 more wins the rest of the year, which isn't out of the realm of possibility. That puts them at 7 wins, which most Packer fans probably said yes to this offseason. So, yeah, I'm completely patient. I'm laughing and giggling this morning on my way in because Packer fans are drunk. I'm like,
you should see the text I'm getting right now.
Oh, I could imagine. I could just imagine. And so I got to go Aaron Rodgers, RELAX, relax.
You know, for one of our I think it was James that chimed in on the video stream there too, saying, you know, it was Matt LaFleur. You know, for the most part agrees, you know, to settle down, but it was Matt LaFleur that said it's not a rebuild year, so he set that expectation. I would say, what do you expect the coach to say, though?
Right.
You know,
what are you going to say? We're going to lose most of our games this year and really be building for next year?
Right.
No. I mean,
coaches lose jobs because of wins and losses, so of course he's not going to want to go out there and say, yeah, we're rebuilding.
Well, and you know, Packer Twitter and went off last week on Stenovich's evaluation of Josh Myers. What is he gonna say? You know, Josh Myers is a dope, and we should have drafted Creed Humphrey.
Right.
Look, you've got to massage this thing from the inside, and when you've got a situation like this, no one knew what this team was going to do this year, and I think after the Bears game, I think people said Super Bowl.
Right.
And that probably
I drank that Kool-Aid, I'll admit it.
Oh,
you know, I did a little bit too. So.
I think we all did.
Yeah.
I think we all did after the way that the Packers just beat the Bears down, and it said more about the Bears organization than it did about the Packers. But this team has a lot of holes and a lot of problems. And if you look at the film, I mean, it is 1 or 2 guys on every play that's not doing what they're supposed to do.
And that's what LaFleur kind of said yesterday. When you look at the offense, like everybody's, at least one person's making a mistake, it seems like, on every play.
It's crazy. And to say that this is Matt LaFleur's fault, or if this is Jordan Love's fault, or if this is Stenovich's fault, or Joe Barry's fault, it is just one thing over and over again. Now, I will say this. I think it does point the discipline or lack thereof. That starts at the top. And so that's squarely on Matt LaFleur. And so my biggest question as this season moves on is going to be Matt LaFleur, not Jordan Love.
You know, with the defense, I kind of threw this out because I'm one of those, Joe, that when I see something or I read something, I got to get in the mindset of somebody. Otherwise, that's why my anxiety is always so high, and that's why I can't sleep. Like I try to call myself a philosopher.
I would agree with you.
Thinking man sort of thing.
I would agree with you. You are a thinking man sports fan.
Right? So I'm like, okay, defensively, like, what are they trying to do here? You know, so, and like, the only thing I could come up with is like, okay, do they know, like, hey, we can't get in a shootout, so we're not going to allow big plays. We're going to keep everything in front.
Right.
Whereas they're not uber aggressive because you're opening yourself up to that. Not saying I necessarily agree with that approach all the time, but is that You think the game plan that Joe Barry's putting out there is like, okay, we're not going to be super aggressive. We're not going to be blitz happy and all that because we know our offense. If, we can't get in a shootout. But it's kind of like Rasul Douglas said, though, too, after the game. Offense is just going to keep doing their own thing, keeping in rhythm. You see the quarterback stats from these last couple of weeks. It's exactly what quarterbacks are doing, staying in rhythm.
Right.
And eventually they're going to put up enough points because their offense can't do anything.
Right.
So I feel like should Joe Barry just say, screw it, and we're going to be aggressive?
I was watching the game with some of my coaching buddies, and I was talking with one of the coaches, Coach Britt and myself were talking from Eau Claire Memorial, and I said, Joe Barry's not a dumb individual. Okay, so is he a successful defensive coordinator? No. His track record says no. Does he know football? Yes. Does he see the same things that the fan sees, that the average fan sees? Absolutely. And so I think this is where I have a problem with coaches. And I don't care what level you're at. When you're stuck to your system and you stick to your system and you're so stubborn towards the system that you don't adapt to the personnel that you have on the field, that's where problems happen. And it's the same reason why I don't like head coaches who are play callers, because they almost get too enamored with their system and their play calls to really have a holistic approach and look at the game. So, and Andy Reid, I think Andy Reid is the guy that through the years has been able to adapt and evolve depending on what he has. And I think there's not many coaches that have been able to do that. And that's the sign of a successful coach. I think if Joe Barry is guilty of anything, it's being married to the system and not opening it up to where can we be most successful given the personnel that I've been given. And so I think that, and again, do I think that if this season continues to spiral a little bit, that there'll be off-season changes in the coaching staff? 100%. Do I think that Joe Barry becomes the fall guy regardless? Yes, 100%. Do I think some of those position coaches get fired? I think the organization puts heat on LaFleur to make some changes in the coaching staff. And so is Joe Barry on the hot seat? Yes. Do I agree with everything he does? Absolutely not. I had to laugh. Preston Smith, man, you're welcome to Preston Island with playing defensive back basically in that game.
Right.
And so, it's kind of funny when you look at it, but
he took that Devontae Adams hate for real.
Right.
Right?
He totally did. He totally did. I think that's where a coach gets into problems though, is where they can't adapt and evolve. And that's right now. Matt LaFleur hasn't adapted offensively.
Right.
He's running almost what Aaron Rodgers was running. And again, we've still not seen the offense that we all thought was coming in Green Bay.
And I think that's the most frustrating part I have with LaFleur.
Well, and that's it. Is where, pick your poison right now. Joe Barry or Matt LaFleur as an offensive play caller. Right now, for the most part, they're not getting game-changing plays on the defensive side of the ball, but for the most part, they're keeping teams around that 17 to 20 mark every game. And so for the most part. And so, again, do you want to see more game-changing plays? Yes. Do you want to see more chances? Yes. But, yeah, the bottom line for me is Packer fans just need to chill. They need to just take a step back at what the expectations were of this organization. Now, can you say that there were many mistakes made getting to this season by Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur and some of the other coaches? Absolutely. I still think that, the way they drafted and handled the Jordan Love situation was wrong. I go back to draft day. So you're in this situation today because of mistakes made 2 or 3 years ago, not necessarily mistakes made today. And it's interesting, Captain. One more point on Goody. You look at the third year and fourth year players on this football team. There's not many, and so he missed on a couple of big drafts. And one specifically was that Jordan Love draft because you got Jordan Love, you got AJ Dillon, and you got Josiah DeGuara.
I actually have his draft picks all up right now. Yeah.
So that was 2020, right?
That was 2020. Yeah. And, honestly, John Runyon Jr. might be the best one on there.
Which is not good to say.
Right.
And what do you have the draft after that?
Yeah, it was the Eric Stokes, Josh Myers, Amari Rodgers, Royce Newman.
And now so back-to-back ugly drafts. Because if you look at 18 and 19, 18 was Jair Alexander.
Yep.
19 was Rashawn Gary and
Elton Jenkins.
Darnell Savage Jr. and Elton Jenkins.
Yep.
And so he was off to a good start rebuilding this team from a talent standpoint.
Yep.
And then you get 2 back-to-back drafts where you lay an egg, and then you try to build a roster around an aging quarterback to try to get one more chance to win a Super Bowl.
Right.
Now you're seeing where you are today.
Mhm.
And now you're seeing where this football team is. I was talking to people on Saturday at the UW Lacrosse UW Eau Claire football game, and they said, well, even if we have the money, Goody's not going to spend it. I'm like, hold up. I mean, I'm going to take you back. He spent a lot of money on Adrian Amos and Billy Turner and Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith. So right now,
all in one day.
Right. I mean, I remember you and I were texting each other.
Yeah.
So Goody will spend, and I do see Green Bay being aggressive once they're out of cap hell.
Mhm.
And so it just, there's a lot of things that always you look back 3 or 4 years and you say, that's why we're probably in the situation we are today.
Mhm. Yeah, I was actually looking at, cap-wise earlier this morning, and it doesn't have the Rashawn Gary one on there yet, but just to kind of give a glimpse of how much of a difference one player can make.
Mm-hmm.
They would open up next year. It's going to be different with Rashawn, but just to give you an example, about $17 million available in cap space. You cut David Bakhtiari, that gets you up to $40 million in cap space.
Right.
That's a big chunk in just one player.
Well, yeah.
And I think it's going to happen.
It will happen.
Yeah.
It will happen. And look, let's talk Rashawn Gary quickly. It added $900,000 to this year's cap.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the numbers on his contract, I give kudos to Russ Ball on this one. Because if you're I think with the 4th year of this contract or the 5th year, whichever it is, you're not even seeing a cap hit of $30 million yet for him.
Right.
And so I thought the Packers did a tremendous job. And look, Packer fans, they've locked up the guys over the years. And you can debate the David Bakhtiari contract all you want, but at the time, he was the best left tackle in all of football.
Mm-hmm.
And no one saw this injury coming. It was a freak injury. He had been, for the most part, healthy. And so I didn't disagree with that move. Jair Alexander, Kenny Clark, Elton Jenkins, now Rashawn Gary.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this team is doing what they have to lock up their dudes and still build around it. But again, those back-to-back drafts of 2020 and 2021, that's why Green Bay is sitting where they are today.
Mm-hmm. To answer, I don't know who this text looks like, first-time texter, who passed on T.J. Watt for a guy that didn't make the team. Well, that would be one, the late Ted Thompson, R.I.P.
Yes.
And then Kevin King technically made the team. So,
well,
yeah.
and look, I get frustrated at that too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get that. I get that. But you could play that every year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the teams that said, Aaron Rodgers, we're going to pass on. If I'm not mistaken, Washington took Jason Campbell before Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And so, you could do that with every team. And
Thank you. I say that
you can do that with every pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I know, and Bill
that's why I always kind of like roll my eyes sometimes when people say, "Well, Ted got lucky." Well, you know what? He still had to have the gonads to draft him.
Well, yeah, and he stayed true to his board.
Right.
Look, I know Bill this week on Bill Michaels' show was talking about T. Higgins. Could he have catapulted the Green Bay? If he was a compliment to Devontae Adams, maybe. But you could play that game every year with every team.
Mm-hmm.
And I go back, Green Bay had their sights set on back in the day on Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
And Baltimore took him a pick ahead, and Green Bay settled on John Michaels.
Yeah.
And that was the year after the Packers' first Super Bowl, I believe. I believe that was going into that Denver Super Bowl that year. And so you could Packer fans, you could play that with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it hurts more with that one,
because he's Wisconsin.
He's a Wisconsin kid.
Yep.
So. Yeah, I'm going to be heading up to Lambeau this week.
Mm-hmm.
And because of my coaching commitments and just schedules, this is my first time to the hallowed grounds this year. I'm getting up on there Saturday, going to hang out all weekend, not come back till Monday. All right.
Nice.
Matter of fact, side note. So I made a bet with one of my kids at Eau Claire Memorial about the Viking game.
Oh, boy.
He's a Viking fan.
Yeah.
So he was going to have to get frosted tips.
Do you have to get frosted tips?
No, I have to shave my beard.
Ooh.
And my wife has told me that when she's seen it before unshaven, she's like, nope, that's not what she bought. So I told her, I said, I'm going to do it Friday morning because she's not going to see me all weekend. So by Monday,
you have a little 5 o'clock shadow.
Okay. Yeah, by Monday it'll be where it needs to be. So
just say tomorrow's November if you want to go Movember.
I'm not happy about this, and neither is my wife. But my point being is this. getting up to Lambeau, I really hope Packer fans don't boo.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope they don't. I don't care, how you feel. Complain to your buddy. Sit at the bar afterwards. I get it. Packer fans pay a lot of money for those tickets. I 100% understand it, but you got to understand where this team is and where this franchise is. The expectations were not high. If they were too high, shame on you, shame on me, shame on all of us. And so you have to look at again, secretly behind closed doors. Did Goody say, you know what, guys? Let's not expect much this year.
That's what I'm kind of wondering.
Let's get through to next year.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't think Goody's a bad GM. I think every GM misses. I mean, Ron Wolf missed on Terrell Buckley and Troy Vincent.
Yep.
And so every GM misses.
Mm-hmm.
And so secretly behind closed doors, did he know?
Jamal Reynolds.
Jamal Reynolds, right? So behind closed doors, did they say, we'll temper the enthusiasm and the expectations this year?
Mm-hmm.
So
and they won't say that in the media. That's the thing.
Of course not.
I know fans are like, well, they said they're playing a media game. They're not going to go out there and say that so all of the players hear this and that sort of stuff.
I don't care what program you're in. You go into the year expecting to win.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what level of football you're coaching at or playing at. You expect to win.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have players on your team that don't, or coaches that don't, I don't want them on my staff or on my team.
Yep.
And so and here's the thing. Now I'm burying the headline on this, but I think Green Bay wins this weekend.
What?
I think Green Bay wins this weekend.
Okay.
I think
with or without Stafford if he plays with that UCL injury.
I'm gonna go ahead and say with or without.
Okay.
Green Bay wins.
Okay.
And again, I've been picking against Green Bay pretty much all season.
Yeah.
I picked them to lose against the Bears. I did pick them to beat Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
I did pick them to beat the Saints. I did expect a more competitive game against the Lions. I did pick Green Bay that game, but ever since then, I've picked against Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see Green Bay winning this game. So my point being is I'm not trying to be a homer when I say they win this week. I think they come out this week at home, and I don't think the Rams are a good football team, with or without Stafford. And I think they pull out the victory this week. And I think Green Bay gets this thing back to 3-5 and setting expectations for that back half of the year.
Mm-hmm. All right. It's really quick before I let you go.
Yes, sir.
Jair Alexander, are you concerned about what you've seen from him so far? I mean, a rookie kind of had his way with him. Jordan Addison.
Yes, I am concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people went off on his post-game interview on his attitude. And look, I still think Jair Alexander is a tremendous football player. Is he one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL? I don't know that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Is he top 10 when he's on his game? Yeah, probably. I want to see how this year plays out with him. To see, because there are, look, and that's going back to LaFleur. Are you losing the locker room?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the dangerous thing of a rebuild year. And that's why I don't see a fire sale today. If Green Bay trades Preston and trades Devondre, and they're not going to trade Jair. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not going to trade him. But if they start trading some of these guys, where does this locker room go? And I think Jair is one of those guys. Don't know this, but he could be one of those guys that does become a cancer down the road. Not saying he is right now, but also the back injury.
Yeah,
that's something you don't want to mess around with. That and those that have had back problems, that's a really tricky thing, especially for a position like cornerback where you're really twisting a lot, moving a lot, and opening up your hips and doing those things. It's all triggered by the back. So am I concerned? Let's put it this way. There's smoke right now. I still don't see fire. And so give me a few more weeks to see if this guy's really saying, look, guys, I didn't sign up for this. I was part of a winning organization ever since he's been drafted, and I didn't sign up to be a rebuild. And so in the offseason, do you look at something there? Possibly. I mean, it's been done before. Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah,
it's been done before, especially at that position,
right?
Where you get cornerbacks who are disgruntled, and it's time for just greener grass, better scenery. And so again, there's smoke. I don't see fire yet.
All right, dude. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, sorry I was late.
No, you're good.
First snowfall of the year.
Yeah.
Everyone forgets
how to drive.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is absolutely crazy out there. That my usual commute in is about 6 minutes. Today was about 13.
Doubling it up, man.
Doubling it up. And here I moved to Eau Claire to get away from that kind of traffic mess in Madison.
Warmer weather and the friendly, like 80-degree weather of Madison. Southern Hemisphere.
Right.
It's easier down there. It's warmer.
It totally is, Captain. But listen, I'm glad I made it in studio. Thanks for stalling a little bit while I was getting my way in.
As Richie said, Joe's luscious voice is even smoother in studio.
Oh, Richie, you made my day, man.
There you go.
You made my day. But
not as smooth as this suede jacket, though.
Hey, voice of radio looks like TV.
Exactly. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right, man.
We got to take a quick break, and we'll close up this final hour here in just a couple minutes. All right, only about a minute left here, so we got a lot of text to get to here. A lot of you with your grind my gears text out there. So I'll get to those coming up just past the 8 o'clock hour, not ignoring you. But we'll get to some of those coming up here in just a little bit. Plus, we got Badger Chat with RJ Cardinal from the Zone of Madison. Good stuff with his Badger men's hockey team. We'll recap the Ohio State game. I know RJ was there. Look ahead to Indiana coming up here for the Badger football program. So we'll hit that up. And if you want any last minute, grind my gears, you want to get on this conversation, I threw out the question, what would you, patient Packers fans, tell maybe some frustrated or impatient Packer fans right now? And then I'll flip it back too. If you are a frustrated Packers fan, what would you tell a very patient Packers fan right now? All right? Keep it clean, though, so I can say it on the air. All right? Do that. Hit me up, 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors text-in line. 2 in. We got one more to go. I love these texts, baby. I love it when I get to hear from you all. So hit me up with a text, okay? I want to hear from you. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Final hour kicking off right now on this Halloween, October 31st. Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, we'll chat with RJ Cardinal, chat all things Badgers with him. I forgot to tell you the answer to our pop quiz trivia question. So I'll ask it now, just to maybe some new listeners tuning in and such. But it was this day in 1968, the Milwaukee Bucks picked up their first win in franchise history. So I threw out who'd they beat without looking this up. Have some fun with it. Just text me a team name. Who'd they beat? And for extra credit, give me the Bucks leading score. Hint, he is a Hall of Famer. So 715-830-1912 on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line. It is a Grind My Gears Tuesday, and we've had a few people kind of chiming in here. I threw out the question, if you are a patient Packers fan, what would you tell maybe a frustrated Packers fan right now? And if you are a frustrated Packers fan, what would you maybe tell a patient Packers fan? Maybe you've had these conversations with your friends, family, maybe sitting up at the bar stool and having a convo with fellow Packers fans and such. But what would you say? We got Chas. It's one season in, and it's still early. Don't judge until the end of the last game. Sean from Eau Claire, entitled fans for what it costs to the games, the lack of success of this team. Sorry, but Titletown isn't made by regular season victories. LaFleur is a joke. He isn't a head coach, and Goody is a joke. What draft picks have been really successful, top-end picks every year on defense, and we constantly get toasted. We've got Austin, what grinds my gears is Packers front office, lack of ability to get Jordan Love the weapons he needs. He should not be going out with a bunch of rookies as a starter. Look what Rodgers had when he started. He had a bunch of veteran wide receivers and a better O-line, and they are kind of setting the guy up for failure. That's Austin, I would agree with you on that, because that's something I've talked about, and that's been one of my main criticisms when it's come to Goody, is that he left the cupboard bare when it's come to wide receivers. That's something you could say Ted Thompson never ever did with his wide receivers for Aaron Rodgers. There was always somebody ready to take that next step up. And you're right. When Aaron Rodgers got there, Driver and Jennings were the top two. They drafted a guy named Jordy Nelson that year. James Jones was in his second year. But then you look at the drafts that Ted did while Rodgers was there. He always had drafted a receiver, and then it was like next guy up. So after, then Jennings kind of took the torch from Driver. Super Bowl year, you had your four, right? It was Jennings, it was Driver at the back end of his career, Jordy, James Jones. No offense to Brett Swain, who was the other receiver there, but he's more special teams guy. I think everybody still remember. Then what do they do after that Super Bowl second round? They draft Randall Cobb. And then when Devontae's a rookie, he gets drafted. The veterans ahead of him are Jordy and Randall Cobb. You're allowed to. I can't remember who said this, but I saw this the other day. When Devontae Adams was a rookie, Rodgers, he had veterans, like I just said, Nelson and Cobb. And right now, Rodgers, yeah, he's still through to Devontae Adams, but he's like the 3 option, the third wide receiver. And right now, Jordan Love's got a bunch of like rookie Devontae Adams or younger Devontae Adams. And Devontae's second year struggled too. But so I agree with you, Austin, and that's been one of my main criticisms with Goody, is that I felt like he let the cupboard get bare. And when Devontae left, there wasn't that guy that had been in the system, been with the team for a couple of years, who was ready to be that next one. And right now, your veterans are second-year guys. That's it. So I would agree with you. Jeremy, we got a couple things here. Looks like you got a couple texts. Nope, that's from last week. So, Jeremy, I agree with the Sams. Packers fans are the worst, and it comes from so many years of success. Buckle up, folks. Things aren't always going to be great. Stop with the fire and trade everyone and look for growth. Another texter to the texter who said about what it costs to go to the games. You know whose fault that is? You and us as fans, we continue to pay for those ticket prices. It's called a business. Until the fans stop going and stop paying for tickets, will they finally see those negative results? Kind of fair there. I mean, they still got a season ticket waiting list and such, and we still pay for all that stuff. So, yeah, when it comes down to it, it is kind of a business in that standpoint. So, all right, keep your texts coming, though. Hit me up, 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. We got World Series Game 4 tonight. Crucial. Is it a crucial or pivotal? I say it's crucial because, I mean, potentially the Diamondbacks could be down 3-1. It's that whole crucial, pivotal thing I always go back and forth. I'm going to call it a crucial because I think if the Diamondbacks go down 3-1, I don't think they're going to win this thing. And I know, they came back from a couple behind Philly and such, but especially when this moves back to Texas and such. But Rangers picking up the win. Max Scherzer left the game early due to a back issue over there. So we shall see if the Rangers can go up 3-1 and be one win away from getting that World Series trophy, and Bruce Bochy picking up a 4th ring. Or we'll see if the Diamondbacks can even this thing up. We talked a little Craig Counsell in the first hour of the program, kind of giving you some updates on Counsell. And he has, according to reports, interviewed with the Cleveland Guardians for their managerial position. Still sounds like he has yet to interview with the Mets, but should be happening soon. His contract actually runs out tomorrow, I think is what I read out there. So, according to the New York Post, the Brewers did make Counsell an offer at the end of the season. No idea what that number is. I would have to imagine it was probably a last-ditch effort to stop him from maybe interviewing with other teams and maybe being swayed to come to another team and such. But, now he's got that number from the Brewers. I hope they didn't lowball him or anything like that. But he's got that number, and now he could go into these meetings with the Guardians, with the Mets, and whoever else may want to interview him and kind of have that base. I think we all know that the Mets are probably going to offer him the most money. Probably can outbid a lot of other teams out there. But we'll just kind of see where it plays out. But I said it yesterday. I said it in the first hour. I think if Craig Counsell takes that Cleveland Guardians job, I think that would be a worse PR hit for Mark Anasio in terms of what we talked about. If money's the same and he still leaves, and just kind of how big of a hit this would take in terms of Mark Anasio, who's already got a fan base that's frustrated and upset with him. But if Counsell leaves and it's all things the same money-wise, he takes a hit there. But if he takes a hit because the Guardians are kind of a lateral move, or if Counsell leaves and for the Guardians because it's kind of a lateral move, Mark Anasio, I think, is going to take a bigger PR hit at that point. So, but we're still kind of in a wait-and-see approach here. Wait and see what Counsell's plans are going to be. So, Bucks picked up the win last night, I should say, against the Miami Heat. Nice bounce-back win after a sloppy performance against the Atlanta Hawks on Sunday. Giannis leading the way. Tyler Hero, the Wisconsin native, leading the way for the Heat. 35 points, over 30 points for him back in his home states, his hometown team with the Bucks there. So putting on quite the performance. I would have to imagine in front of a bunch of family and friends there. But the news from in the wee hours of the morning, late nights, is that James Harden finally traded. He is going to the Clippers, which seems to have been like the only destination that was out there was Harden and the Clippers. So he pairs up with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and he gets out of the Western Conference. So now PJ Tucker's going with him. 76ers get some players and some picks and such in return, but Harden is out of the Eastern Conference. And I thought the 76ers were kind of in that tier 2 before the season. I still think they're kind of in there, and a lot of it is because of Joel Embiid and such. But to me, the Eastern Conference is still a 2-tier team. Let me rephrase that, is still a conference that has 2 teams in tier 1. That's the Bucks and the Celtics. And then you got a few down there in tier 2. So a couple more texts to get to here. I know we were talking a bit about Devontae prior. Dan Graziano, today is the trade deadline. Could Devontae be traded? Dan Graziano on ESPN said, I've been told that they're not going to trade him. I love how Andrew Brandt, when some of this stuff pops out there, and he does, like, if anybody follows Andrew Brandt on Twitter or social media, he's got some of some of the stuff that he always says, deadline spur actions, and one of them, especially when it's come to these trade deadlines, has been, all that means they haven't gotten an offer they like. And I think he's right. I mean, obviously he would know a lot more than all of us right now. He's been in those meetings, he's been in those conversations and such. But he's right. I mean, if the Raiders were offered, say, a first-round pick and a second-round pick for Devontae Adams, I think they'd be foolish not to take it. And they probably would take it. So if some team really, 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 really wants a player, more times than not, I think they could be able to get it done if they're willing to overpay in a lot of circumstances. Maybe some, like the Joe Burrows and the Patrick Mahomes and, quarterback sort of thing completely off the table. But I don't think Devontae's going to get traded. I think we might see a couple trades today. Johnson, the corner from Chicago, potentially could get traded today. I know we got we had a trade yesterday with the Giants and the Seahawks and such. I don't see a lot of big trades coming down by the deadline today. And for Green Bay, I honestly don't see any trades coming down for Green Bay. I don't see it right now. So, but we'll see. Deadline's today, this afternoon. We'll see if Goody ends up making any deals or anything like that. So, all right, let's take a quick break. We're going to switch gears here a little bit. We're going to talk some Badgers. Badger football coming off that loss against Ohio State. Get RJ's thoughts on that. Plus, Badger men's hockey, quite the last couple weeks here. Sweeping Tech, Michigan Tech, sweeping the number 1 Gophers. Now number 5 in the country. We got a top 5 matchup between them and Michigan Friday and Saturday. So let's hit it up. Let's talk a lot of things Badgers, and plus we're getting ready for the college basketball season coming up here too. So got plenty to catch up on. Let's do it with RJ Cardinal. He's coming up after these quick words. friend get-togethers. And the first area you should be looking at to upgrade is that floor in your home. Just close your eyes for a few seconds and imagine that one room or two in your home that would look amazing with a brand new carpet or some luxury vinyl planks or tile. Now, I see that smile creeping on your face when you can imagine your Aunt Jolene being really jealous of that new floor of yours. All right, so here's what you do. You head on over to Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center, right here in Eau Claire, and their incredible team will help you find that perfect floor that will make your aunt incredibly jealous, look awesome in your home, and fits within your budget because, well, they will even match or beat the competition. The team at Carpet City Flooring Center is like one big family. And since we're getting ready to be spending a lot of time with family in the next couple of months, why wouldn't you want to work with them? Give them a visit today at 3019 East Hamilton Avenue in Eau Claire. Let's chat some things Badgers. I'm going to switch it up here a little bit, RJ, because I want to give them some credit here. Badger men's hockey, man. You know, last week we were talking about Michigan Tech, and they followed up by going to Minnesota and taking down the number one team, not once but twice, sweeping them, man. And now we got another top 5 matchup with Michigan coming to the Kohl Center. I mean, the start of the Mike Hastings era, RJ, I don't think could go any better at this point.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can. And even now, looking at articles that are coming out and things like that, it's something that was an immediate change at his stop at Mankato as well. So it's one where Mankato went from a 12-win team to a 24-win team and made the NCAAs in his first season there. So hopefully Wisconsin, I believe 13 wins last year. I mean, you're already at 7 so far this year. So hopefully, you can surpass 13 already after your first 4 series here. But it's one of those. It's just amazing to see, and I think it absolutely was the coaching. And I mean, you didn't want to believe it because of who Tony Granato was as a player here, but it definitely seems there's a lot more structure and discipline on this hockey team this year than there has been in quite some time, especially when you do not have the talent that we saw in 2020 before they left for the NHL.
Right. So now we got Michigan coming to the Kohl Center, a top 5 matchup going on here. I mean, if Wisconsin goes out there and sweeps them again, I mean, you're talking probably a top 3 team at least in the country, I would have to imagine at this point, RJ.
Yeah, probably. I think, though, going into this one, thinking you're going to get a sweep, Michigan is one of the top scoring offenses in the country right now. So it'll be a little more of a test, I think, because anything that I think the Badgers can dole out, I think this will be the first opponent who can respond. And it was a little shocking watching the Minnesota series outside of Minnesota, being coming out on 15 seconds into the game on Thursday night and scoring. It's one of those you look at it and you see a team that responded so well in Wisconsin, and the Gophers just seem to bottle up for the rest of the series. And Wisconsin, even though Friday night's game was a little closer, still looked like they had dominated the entire games. So it's Michigan, I think, is like averaging 5 goals a game right now. Now, granted, that's helping out that they played Lindenwood last weekend, and I think won the total series almost like 20 goals to 2 or something like that. So that helped out their scoring average a bit. But I mean, they've still put up in games 7 and 5 and 8 and things like that. So they do have 2 losses in there, though. So I mean, there is a shot that one of those happened on the road. One of them happened at home, but I think Michigan will be a real test here to see where, especially not just in the country now because it's a top 5 matchup, but where in the conference Wisconsin will stand.
Switching over to football now, RJ. Badgers falling to Ohio State, 24-10. I don't know if it was like this for what you noticed, but after the game, kind of reading some of the stuff from some of the writers and those who cover some of the Badgers, it almost seemed like it was a kind of a moral victory in a sense that there was some positive stuff to go out there. I mean, what did you take away? Did you take away a lot of positive stuff from that game? I mean, it was close up until the last few minutes in the fourth there. I know they struggled a little bit to stop the run there, especially at the end. But did you take away more positive stuff, even though it was a loss in this game?
Yeah, there were some positive things you could see out there, but it's one of those. Um, it's one of those. There was encouraging stuff, but it was still some of the same stuff that you saw out there. Penalties, getting you behind the ball, nobody having an awareness. Well, two Ohio State guys jumped off sides to either snap the ball or move because you pick up a first down and then you don't have to try a 52-yard field goal into the wind in the cold that horribly misses by 10 yards to the left. But it's one of those. You saw some things still from Braden Locke that really encourage you on what's going on, and I just think it's one of those where you really like what you see from Braden Locke, and you hope it just keeps moving forward, especially since these last four games you are now playing against teams that are in the bottom 10 in scoring in the nation. So hopefully something can translate here into Wisconsin picking up some momentum as they close out the season.
Is the game different at all at any point if Braylon Allen doesn't get hurt and he plays that whole game, in your opinion?
I'm not too sure because it feels weird to say, but I almost think Jackson Aker looked like he was running a bit harder than Braylon Allen. Anyway, I think it forced Wisconsin to pass a little more, and that always doesn't work out the greatest. So it's one of those. I had DK stayed healthy, had Allen stayed healthy. I'm still not sure where this team would have ended up in that game, but it's definitely one. I mean, DK went out in the second quarter, and I mean the team had it at 10-10.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see if Allen makes a difference there, but still, the score I think is not indicative of what that game was, and I really don't think any fan base went home happy after that game because even talking to some Ohio State fans, they were like, that we just looked bad, and honestly, for the most part, they did. And I mean, you can look at the box score and be like, well, Henderson had 162 yards and a touchdown. Kyle McCord passed for 226, but I mean, he even had two interceptions in there and a fumble. So it's one of those. It's it is what it is, but still could have seen more. But you got to like what you saw for a little bit with the defense keeping the Badgers in that one. And offense, you still wish there was a little more there to have more happen. But unlike both Pat Narduzzi at Pitt and Coach Prime at Colorado, I don't think we're going to have a staff that's calling out this offensive line and telling them they got to do better.
Right.
But I think that's the big part of this offense right now is the offensive line is not being what we expect a Wisconsin offensive line to be. And it, for whatever it is, it starts with, I think any one of us might be able to get a snap back to the quarterback faster than Bortolini right now. But, it's this offensive line just isn't playing what it should be. And anybody who thinks that's because of the air raid, it's not the air raid. It's a spread offense that runs out of with an eye, and a shotgun, and sometimes in the jet, and it's just not under the center. So the blocking schemes aren't too different from what this team has done in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you mentioned Kyle McCord's passing numbers. It's when you're thrown to a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. And I mean, you've got like two offensive studs on that Ohio State team. They make the world of a difference, don't they? I mean, I'll tell you right now, RJ, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is wearing green and gold next year in the NFL, I'd be pretty darn happy at this point in time.
Yeah, I would be too, but I mean, we all know that's not going to happen because the Packers just don't draft receivers in the first round.
That's true. Don't ruin my dream, RJ. Come on now.
You already were thinking it.
All right, so going up against Indiana here, kind of give us a little bit of a preview here, RJ, with the Hoosiers, Badgers visiting Indiana here. What was the Badger or Indiana's 2-6? The line right now 9.5 for Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's one of those. I don't know if anybody watched the Indiana Penn State game last Saturday, but their backup quarterback is, he's doing all right. He had passed for 269 yards and 3 touchdowns against Penn State. 2 of those touchdowns, one was 90 yards, the other was like 67 on some breakdowns by Penn State's defense. So hopefully, our defense doesn't have those, even though they are susceptible from time to time to the big plays. Their starting quarter, it's actually their backup quarterback as well. So I mean, it's a team where I'm not too sure on how good Indiana actually is, but I mean, this was at Penn State. They showed up, and I think Penn State might have been sleepwalking through it. I don't think Wisconsin has that kind of luxury. They're not the greatest of rushing offense there is. They will need to pass to work over the Badgers, but we've also seen the Badgers give up some pretty suspect rushing to teams that can't do it. Indiana, I think, is just over 100 yards rushing on the year per game. So it's a one-dimensional offense that I hope finally the dollar package might be able to match up against and wreak some havoc, much to what we saw probably in the Purdue game, where, I mean, even though Purdue carved us up, that was later in the game, in the running game, that they started producing. But I also think Purdue has a better running back stable than Indiana does. So it'll be interesting to see how the matchup there works, where, I think Wisconsin should be able to handle this Indiana offense as long as they can hopefully not have those big plays that they have been giving up. And we've seen it from time to time, and it's still one that's not a whole game, because, I mean, even against Ohio State, we saw them battle for quite some time of not giving up huge plays, and then all of a sudden, I think the defense was just on the field too much in that game, which, it always tends to go that way when things like that happen. But I think it should be a game where Wisconsin can go on the road, take care of business, and it'll be an interesting one to see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm. RJ, with about we got 4 games left here, and you look at the Big Ten West. Minnesota's 3-2, Iowa's 3-2, Wisconsin's 3-2, Nebraska's 3-2. Heck, even Northwestern's 2-3. I think doing a little bit better than what people expected this year. 4-4 overall. Yeah. Confidence level that you think Wisconsin will win this Big Ten West. I know we got a lot of, they need a little bit of help here. Nebraska, Iowa play each other in the final game, and then you got obviously Wisconsin and Minnesota in the final game. Maybe we'll find out that final week, but where's your confidence level that Wisconsin, you think, in your opinion, could still win this Big Ten West?
Yeah, currently they do not hold their. They need to win out, and then, like you said, hope for some help. But I mean, if you beat Nebraska and Minnesota, you have the tiebreaker over them. If it ends up being a four-way tie, you need to beat Indiana. You need to beat Northwestern. Just win out and let whatever is going to take care of itself take care of itself. It's one of those, like you said, right now, Minnesota holds the tiebreak over Iowa and Nebraska. We're in third because we haven't played Minnesota or Nebraska, but we've lost to Iowa. And it'll be interesting to see where Iowa falls because, I mean, their remaining schedule is very winnable too. Northwestern, Rutgers, Illinois, Nebraska. So if they take care of their business, they should end up in the Big Ten championship game, even if, um, they already essentially fired their coordinator.
Right.
Then you have Minnesota, who has to go to Columbus and play the Buckeyes there. But other than that, they have Illinois, Purdue, and Wisconsin left. So I think the easiest schedule there is probably the Hawkeyes. But we've always seen Northwestern give them fits. And I guess maybe Rutgers, a much improved team, we'll have to see how that plays out there. And I might want to take the under in the Illinois game when Iowa goes and they play each other. But it's one of those. In Nebraska, I'm not sure what they have. What do they have left? Michigan State, Maryland, Wisconsin, Iowa. Yeah. I mean, it's one where any one of these four teams, based on the way they've played so far this year, can probably end up winning the Big Ten West. So as long as Wisconsin just takes care of their four games, doesn't worry about anything else, don't go scoreboard watching, hopefully you end up on top. But yeah, you had a chance to stay where you were right now, but kind of blew it against Iowa a couple games ago. So hopefully we see just a win out and keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah. Before I ask you for your pick here, RJ, just a quick note: Badger volleyball. Cool thing, everybody who's watching the Packers game on Sunday. First of all, I apologize, but you probably saw some promotions for, hey, coming up after the game, we got Minnesota, Wisconsin volleyball, and that was the first game on Fox, first ever for the conference,
Yeah.
to have that game on Fox there. Minnesota won it.
I think I heard it was the first college volleyball game on Fox
Nice.
ever.
All right. Even it's just another example of this sport. It really seems like, RJ, in the last few years, it has skyrocketed in popularity.
Yeah, and it's been one of those coaches are taking a stance saying, look at our ratings for the postseason.
And Sheffield's
Put
been
us
a
on
big
TV.
one on that, hasn't he?
Absolutely. And it's not one of those. I don't think it's just a pitch to get recruits. I think it's it's genuine. Like,
Mhm.
and I mean, if you're a volleyball coach, it should be. I'm not saying anything like that, but I mean, I could see somebody being like blowing the smoke just to let kids know, hey, come here, play for me. I'm really got your back. But I mean, there are coaches that do that. But then I think his is actual genuine, and he actually cares about growing the sport, not just for Wisconsin and the Big Ten, but the entire sport of volleyball to get it on a level where you can, I mean, we've seen it on Sundays too, when like on ESPN, when countdown ends, sometimes it goes to volleyball games, stuff like that. So I think it's also part of the whole TV deal. Fox and CBS and NBC, if they want to get sports involved, will have a lot more things they can put on TV rather than rerun movies and infomercials on Sundays. So that could be something we see more of in the future.
Absolutely. Badger volleyball tomorrow taking on number 19 Purdue at the UW Fieldhouse too. So,
yeah.
All right, pick time, RJ. Badgers, Hoosiers. Who you rolling with?
I do like Wisconsin in this one, and I'll give it a cover, but not too much of one, just because I think there will be some big plays that happen. I have no reason to not believe that.
Mhm.
So I'd say 28-17, cover by 1.5 for the Badgers.
All right. He's RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst. Appreciate it as always, buddy. Always love catching up with you, man. Enjoy the rest of the week. Happy Halloween, too. I don't know if you're trick-or-treating or anything like that, but happy Halloween. Trick-or-treating? You going out
Yeah,
there? Yeah.
I don't have a young one to worry about, so I don't really go trick or treating anymore. But
What? Come on.
happy Halloween, and hopefully you have an eventful trick or treating tonight.
I know. I got to dig through the bucket and find my favorites out there, too. So what's your go-to favorite before I let you go?
Ooh, I do like just a solid Nestle Crunch or the peanut butter cups. So
Oh, yeah.
if I just had a bag full of just those, I'd be a happy camper.
There you go. That's the popular one out there. All right, buddy. Appreciate it. And we'll catch up with you again next week. Okay, sir?
Sounds good. We will see you then.
You got it. There you go. RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst, joining us here this morning. We got to take our final break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes to wrap up this program. Coffee lovers, are you looking for a new Java experience like no other? Then look no further than our good friends at Cabin Coffee in Altoona. At Cabin Coffee, they take your daily brew to the next level. Their beans are roasted to perfection, delivering a taste that's rich and bold. But they're more than just coffee. Their cozy atmosphere and friendly baristas make you feel right at home. Come on in and savor the moment at Cabin Coffee, located right in the River Prairie area in Altoona. Don't just have a coffee, have a Cabin Coffee, where every cup is a taste of perfection, especially on a day like today. A little snow out there, a little colder temperatures. Doesn't a really good cup of coffee kind of sound good right now? It does for me. A little chilly here in the studio. It's really cold in my office. I had to bust out the heater, a little portable heater, and turn that thing on here. So, good cup of hot coffee sounds really good right now. Nobody got it right for the that's a good statement to start it off with. Nobody got it right. For our pop quiz trivia, I asked you, it was this day in history. Bucks won their first ever game in 1968. Who was it against? An extra credit point. Who was the Bucks' leading scorer? They defeated the Detroit Pistons on this day in 1968 for their first franchise win, and their leading scorer was Wayne Embry, center, 6'8" center. So there you got it. We got Mark with quick text in the Packers front. I'm somewhere in the middle. I have patience with the young roster, but regardless of the number of penalties, drop passes, defensive botches, are unacceptable reflection of coaching. And I still think we miss Nathaniel Hackett. Our offense has been in the tank for the couple years since he has left. I was looking at the Pro Football Focus grades from this game to see where it was all at. And I'll be honest with you, the offense kind of surprised me with the grades they got. So the number one, again, this is if you are a believer in Pro Football Focus grades. I am a believer in it in part that I think it's a phrase I like to say is it's a tool part of the toolbox. It gives you a little bit, doesn't tell you the whole story. I think there's a bunch of different factors in this thing. But Elton Jenkins was the highest graded offensive player, and even so, his highest grade wasn't it wasn't great. I mean, 76. It was a 76, and I'll get to some defensive players' grades here just to kind of give you a comparison of where it was. But Elton Jenkins was a 76. Zach Tom was the second highest graded player at a 68.4. A.J. Dillon was the third highest, 64.2. Jordan Love, fourth highest rated offensive player for the Packers, 63.7. Dontavian Wicks, 63.4. Jordan Love was had an adjusted completion percentage. Get this. He had an adjusted completion percentage of 70. 70. They adjusted it for drops. So he was under pressure on 13 of his 49 dropbacks. This is according to Packers Wire from USA Today, but was effective when blitzed. Top five defense. So, okay, the highest graded offensive player was Elton Jenkins. I gave you that number, 76. It's actually 76.5. Preston Smith was the highest graded defensive player for the Packers. He came in. This tells you the difference here. 92.8. That's an elite grade. Elite grade. 92.8. Actually, not far behind him. Might have been a little quiet. Devontae Wyatt, 89.6. TJ Slayton, 82.3. Devondre Campbell, fourth highest, 78.8. Colby Wooden, 75.7. So, what some of these grades, I mean, we're just looking at the top fives here, and I'll get to some of the bottom ones here. But if you're looking at the grades here, the lowest or the fifth highest defensive player, Colby Wooden, 75.7, is 1 point off the highest graded offensive player for the Packers. So if you are a big believer in Pro Football Focus grades, if you think that's like, hey, that's my main thing I look at, that's like the hammer part of my toolbox, your go-to tool, whatever it is, hammer, whatever analogy you want to use. Pro Football Focus, my number one. You might be saying, see, this kind of tells you maybe your defense isn't all the blame out there. Some may go with that route. Bottom five offense, probably no surprise with some of these players. The worst was Josiah DeGuara at a 40.9. literally 0.1 away from him was another tight end, Tucker Kraft. You really haven't heard Tucker Kraft's name so far this year, have you? Like, you really have not heard his name. And that's kind of disappointing. I know he's a rookie tight end, but what? Third, fourth rounder, mid-round? You really haven't heard his name a whole lot. Rasheed Walker was the third lowest. Then you had Aaron Jones at a 54.2, Josh Myers, 54.6. Lowest graded defensive players, Carl Brooks, who actually made the block on the field goal, I believe. Then it was Rasul Douglas, Rashawn Gary, Jonathan Owens, Jair Alexander. So those are just some of your grades. Again, that was from USA Today, Packers Wire USA Today there. So again, I like to kind of look at those. Again, it's not the tell-all, be-all, tell-all sort of thing. But I think it does. And I know firsthand how much work Pro Football Focus goes in there because a little behind the curtain, I actually 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I applied to be a Pro Football Focus analyst, and they put me under the test. It is a grueling test. I mean, they don't just say, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you're good. Just do this and that. No, they put you under a bunch of testing, and I could not dedicate to the time to it. So I was like, hey, I got to back up. I got to pull out of this. But I kept all their what do you call it? Teaching material. I kept all that. I still have that at home. And just to kind of look at everything that they do. And this was about 11 years ago. So I would have to imagine it has gotten in more detail at this point. But it is a very, very, very difficult testing thing to go through. So they watch every little thing out there. I will say that about Pro Football Focus. They watch every little thing, everything out there for every player. Because I had to do it. And I didn't like doing it. I'll just say that. So, all right, we only got a couple minutes to the top here. Reminder, we got Game 4 of the World Series tonight. Can the Rangers go up 3-1? Can the Raiders go up 3-1? Or can the Diamondbacks even it up at 2 apiece? That game's tonight. No Bucks game tonight. Elsewhere, it is the NFL trade deadline today. We'll see if any more moves are made. I know there's some rumblings about. I saw one thing. I don't know how legit this is. Vikings, if you're a Vikings fan, I saw something on Twitter that, Jameis Winston, Vikings, Saints, maybe talking. Again, I don't know if this is a legit thing. It's Twitter, it's the X, it's social media, so I always take it with a grain of salt. But it is on the news that it's official. Kirk Cousins did tear his Achilles tendon, so he's out unless maybe he has another rehab regime like an Aaron Rodgers with a quick return potentially. I don't know. So, but yeah, you got that. We'll see if any other big moves are being made before the deadline today. Again, I don't think we'll see anything from Green Bay, but maybe we'll see something there. So, but if it does, we'll definitely talk about it tomorrow. We'll recap it and hit it up. But a big thanks to everybody who texted in last hour with the whole optimism and frustration parts. Appreciate it. I love it when all of you shoot us some messages and give us your thoughts and give us your input. I love chatting with you guys, so guys and gals. So keep it coming. All right. Never be too shy to send us over a message or anything like that. I love hearing from you. I may not get to your message because sometimes we get a lot. If I had a producer, I could probably get to some more of that stuff there too. So, but no, big thanks to everybody for tuning in and giving me your input, opinions, thoughts, and banter even. So, but we'll do this again tomorrow, just past 6. We'll talk about the trade deadline. If anything does happen, Packers will be back at practice tomorrow. What kind of things are they going to shake up with that Matt LaFleur talked about yesterday? We'll see. Going out trick-or-treating, have fun, be safe, stay warm with the kiddos out there. I should have asked who's like the scariest Packers player right now, and maybe not in a good way. There are a lot of monsters on this team. Maybe not in a good way. All right. Have a good Halloween, everybody. DP and Adanitz are up next. We'll see you all tomorrow morning.